Hey, grade sevens, last video, you'll watch it in class, but then you can watch it again whenever you want. Um, so we're going to be looking at finding the area of a triangle now. So we've already figured out how to find the area of a parallelogram. And in front of us we have a rectangle, which is a type of parallelogram. And the area of that is just area is equal to base times by height. So you take the base of something, you multiply by how high it is, that gives us this area of this parallelogram or rectangle. So now we're going to say, well, what about a triangle? Well, the first thing I want to show you is that any triangle is actually just half of a rectangle. So I can show you that pretty quickly here with this rectangle. I can take a line, let's just make it nice and colored, a red line, and I can start at this corner and I can bring it across to this corner. And that actually now makes two triangles. So I have one triangle here, starting at, let's call this point A. It goes down to B, so coming down here, coming across to C, and then going back up to A. That would be one triangle, and then we actually have another triangle on the other half. And this is just splitting this rectangle in half, and that's a triangle. So that's pretty easy to see, seems pretty obvious. But what about if instead of this dotted line being here, so let's get rid of that, what if this rectangle, a triangle was drawn inside of it that looked more like, use that. What if this triangle looked more like this? Came up to there, and then down to here. So how do we know that the area inside this triangle, sort of this section inside here, how do we know that that's the same as the area on the outside of the triangle? Well, a triangle like this actually is still just half of this rectangle. Now we can show that actually by doing this. So imagine if another straight line came down here, and this was at 90 degrees to the bottom there. Here we have one triangle, right here, which cuts this rectangle in half. So that part of the yellow triangle takes up half of that space. And then over here we have another half, another rectangle, and the yellow part of the triangle takes up half of this space. And so each part of this triangle takes up half of each of those rectangles, which in total means that the triangle ends up taking up half of that rectangular area. That may have been a bit confusing. But really what this means is that just every triangle can have a rectangle drawn around it. And the triangle is always going to take up half of the space of that rectangle. So let's get these out of the way quick. So for instance, I could have a triangle that looks like this. Let's come bring it over here. Well, a rectangle could go around it that would have the same base as this one, but it would come straight up at the corners, it would come across, and it would make a space around it that's in the shape of a square or a rectangle. And this triangle is going to take up exactly half of that area. We know that because if there was a perpendicular line from the base that came up here, this part of the triangle here takes up half of that space. This part of the triangle here takes up half of that space. And so a triangle actually just takes up half of the area of a square or a rectangle that has the same base and the same height. So what that means when we're talking about the equation for finding the area of a triangle, it actually just takes up half the area of a rectangle or a parallelogram. And so the area of a triangle, area is equal to base times by height, and whatever that is, divided by 2. So this is the equation to find the area of a triangle. Area is equal to base times by height divided by 2. So let's just do a couple quick examples. So you have a triangle. The height is 10. Oh, the height is 10. There we go. The base is 10 centimeters, let's say. Base is 3 centimeters. What is the area that this triangle takes up? Well, the base is 3 there at the bottom. It is 10 centimeters high, and so we would say area is equal to base times by height divided by 2. Well, that's equal to base times by height is 10 times by 3 divided by 2. So 10 times by 3 is 30. So I have 30 divided by 2, which is equal to 15. And that's centimeters times centimeters. We did area is always centimeters squared, or meters squared, or whatever unit you're using. So the area of that triangle is 15 centimeters squared. The triangles always won't be so pretty as that. You could have a triangle that looks something more like this. So you have a base there, then it comes up, one side comes up like this, one side comes up like this. Now the height of this triangle is not the side length. So this again could have, let's just say, has a base of 2 centimeters. Now it could have a side length here of 15 centimeters, but that side length is not its height, remember. It's just sort of like the same thing as a side length of a parallelogram is not its height. If we have the base, we need to find its height, and its height would actually be imagining if there was a line that went straight up from the base to the highest point. And so it would be this measurement right here that we'd be looking for to find what the height of that triangle is, not the side length. And that height right here could maybe be something like 10 centimeters. So again, like a parallelogram, you might get some extra information, just like the side length of a triangle, which may not be its height. And so we would take this triangle, and we would say, well, the area is equal to base times by height divided by 2, base times by height divided by 2. So how I'm showing my work is how you should show your work in your notebook. Well, the base, we said, is 2. The height is not 15. The height is 10 centimeters, so 2 times by 10. We're dividing that by 2. So 2 times by 10 is 20. So 20 divided by 2 is equal to 10. So 10 centimeters squared would be the area of that triangle. Okay, and that's the basics of that. So the assignment that you are now going to work on is here. So page 113, you're just doing 7 questions. So either option A, B, or C. And have fun with that. Because you know I am having fun in Mexico on the beach. So enjoy your math. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend.